Yo, the kids official sliding on the instrumental. Nordic combos, twist your mental like forbidden.
Peace to the public and power to the people.
What it be like, y'all? It's good to be back in this space where the vulnerable are powerful and where the most gangster thing you could do is serve. Welcome to All the Way Live.
Absolutely. Welcome everybody to this All the Way Live show. This is carefully curated content for your cranium that my brother Miles, Hassan, and I all spend time to be able to cultivate some positive energy for people, man. You know, there's days like this, I get so excited because we haven't gotten the chance to speak. Things have been happening, things have been moving around. We haven't been able to speak to our producer. So it really does feel like one of those moments where it's just a bunch of friends coming together to come talk about some pretty interesting things that are happening into the world, man. And we appreciate everyone that's listening to us do that, especially because we do this more than anything for one reason and one reason only, which is that we know that people are going through it, man. We know that loneliness is at an all-time high. We know that depression is at an all-time high. We know that suicide rates are through the roof. And so we hope from this space here, man, to be a time for you to come through, get some positive energy for your day, get some information, and keep it pushing. And it's a open communication. Nice, it's open communication for absolutely everybody. So if you're watching, that means you're part of the show. Shout out to Easy Chiller, my brother all the way in Amsterdam. We miss you, my dog. Miles, what is we doing?
Man, we coolin', man. Family is in the building. Shout out to Amsterdam being in the building. Exeter's in the building. You know what I'm saying? South Africa's in the building in a big way. My boy is home. How you feeling, dog?
I'm 2 shirts loose. I'm 2 shirts loose. I might even go a third depending on how the rest of this show goes. But I'm starting at 2.
Clearly, my man is comfortable. Maybe a little bit too comfortable. That remains to be seen. We'll see how the show goes. But, man, thank you for being in conversation with us. Thank you for bringing your energy. And you already know what's going on this side. Chicago is in the building. This podcast is recorded on stolen land, right? This land here in Chicago, the land that I belong to, was cared for by the Potawatomi people, the Council of the Three Fires. And the violence done to remove those First Nations people from this land is inseparable from the violence that we see in this city today, this country today, and this world today. And for that reason, we lift up that history. We lift up love between black and brown people the world over. We lift up indigenous people the world over. And we do that every show. And that's how you know that the intro is over. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I get that, but is we live though? Is we like all the way live though? You heard?
This is a show where impact meets art, where creativity meets community. I'm trying to think of a third one, but I can't think about it. But what we do over here, because Miles is a community organizer in his own right. I, myself, am an activist and a community organizer, and we come together to share updates on how we've been helping the community and also people that are either doing the same type of work or doing dope art. This week, last week, you know, through our foundation, not last week, a few months ago, we heard about the flooding that happened in Durban, South Africa. And that was in our backyard, that was at home. It got mobile very quickly. We raised a bit of money, sent it over there to the people that, to the foundation that we're working with there. So hearing the news about what's happening in Pakistan right now is very near to heart. And because, possibly because we've been exposed to having seen that before, seeing this again too hits home, man. So prayers up for the people in Pakistan, and we want to do what we always do on the show and highlight the people that are doing the work. Miles, how do you feel?
Well, thank you for making that connection initially to the efforts we had a couple months ago I want to say first, I feel gratitude for everybody who got mobilized with us on that. It was really dope to like see people respond to that call for help, that call for empathy, that call for resources. So I'm super humbled by the response that we got on that. And I'm humbled that this platform has been an opportunity to shed light on some things that are going on and get resources to folk and help to folks. So grateful to y'all out there who engage with us and who support. And I'm sad, bro. I'm sad for the loss of life, right? About 1,300 people as of September 5th had lost their lives in this flooding, right? 33 million people, or 15% of the country's population, have been affected by this. So this is major. This is huge in a hugely tragic way. So I feel for folks, and I think this show and this space always wants to center the humanity, and that what matters, folks, is the people that are going through it. So lifting up love for them. But I in a broader sense, right, this is also a reminder that this is a struggle that we're all gonna have to face, right? While this is definitely, like, flooding is something that happens in this area of the world, the increase in the amount of flooding and the timing of flooding fluctuating, making it hard for infrastructure planning to be put in place is a result of global warming. There's a direct link between the greenhouse gas emissions and fossil fuel burning and intensified floods and other natural disasters. And so this is a global struggle, right? And the need to create infrastructure to manage these type of crises reminds us that we are facing this as a collective. And so we should all practice extending our empathy to folks and realizing that whether it's heat waves, as some of us have experienced, whether it's tornadoes, whether it's hurricanes, or whether it's flooding, this is a challenge that we got to take seriously.
Some of the people that are taking this challenge very seriously, and the folks that we want to be able to spotlight, is Green Lane Masjid, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Our producer will let us know, but it is a local mosque in Birmingham, and that's how you pronounce it, Birmingham. It's a local mosque out over there, and what they do is organize for relief efforts, for community efforts. We know that 2 years ago they hosted the biggest Eid celebration in their community. So these are people that are very active. So in being able to point people towards the right direction in terms of how you can help, we do know that there's no minimum entry requirement for helping people. Any amount works, any amount helps. So please do check out Green Lane Masjid for how we can, how you can be a part of the work that they're doing in helping the floods in Pakistan.
Yeah. And so, I'm glad we have the opportunity to shout them out and big up the efforts that they've got in motion already. And it's always appreciative. Our producer brought us this, so shout out to Hassan. It's dope whenever, these impact spotlights are really folks that are a part of the fam, friends of the show, friends of us and our networks. So yeah, man, just grateful to be moving around in circles who can point me to places to put my effort, or to put whatever I can pull out my purse strings and to help the people.
Helping the people is what we do, and we do it in many different types of ways. One of the ways that we help folks is by giving y'all that carefully curated content. That's how we help them. And this week, man, we've gotten all sorts of topics that we got to be able to dive into. Some current news things, a whole batch of things that we pre-produce to be able to bring on this show. Miles, my brother, how did we even get to the place where all we have is any conversation we want to have? How do we have all these options?
Well, some of this stuff is out of our control, man. We got to leave it up to the universe in a lot of ways to provide us with either inspiration or sometimes an incident, and it never disappoints. And I just appreciate you and Hassan and the people out there, the All the Way Live fam, for never being shy at throwing us curveballs at how to take on these conversations, coming from interesting perspectives, and the back and forth on how we decide what to talk about is really rich in itself. So maybe we can get some Patreon going to show people a little bit of that process. You know what I mean? Always thinking we're content oriented, but Yeah, man, I'm grateful, and I'm happy this week to be talking about a few things that feel like are directly in our wheelhouse. Never far from hip hop with this first conversation, and then global impact. I think is a key term for the second conversation that we're gonna get into. So, yeah, man, I'm appreciative and excited, and y'all should be too. Like, comment, subscribe. So I listen to Jay-Z, but not all the time. Sometimes, well, let me never say too much. This week, he uh he made some statements, made some comments that, upon hearing them, I immediately knew would make for a perfect conversation with my brother. So, without too much further ado, let's turn to what Hove said, and then let's get into what we think.
I think we got the video coming up too. Capitalist in Paris. Let's hear what O
Yeah,
said.
we're not gonna stop. This the hip hop is young. We still growing, and we're not falling for that technology, whatever you know this public puts out there now. That before was the American dream. Pull yourself out of bootstraps. You can make yourself. You can make it in America. All these lies that America told us our whole life. Um, and then when we start getting it, they try to lock us out of it. They start inventing words like capitalist and things like that. I mean, we've been called nigger and monkeys and shit. I don't care. Those words y'all come up with, y'all got to come up with stronger words. When I say y'all, I'm not talking about you. The words they come up with, they got to come up with stronger words. We're not going to stop. We're not going to be tricked out of our position. Y'all locked us out. Y'all created a system that, doesn't include us. We said, fine. We went our ultimate route. We created this music. We did our thing. We hustled. We fucking killed ourselves to get to the space. And, now it's like, eat the rich and think, man, we're not stopping. So that evolution is, from us, we came from selling 7 records and selling records out our trunk and, no radio play. I think Reasonable Doubt did 36,000 the first week or something like that. I may be adding a little to it. So we come from I come from Marcy Projects. My first house, 615 Lexington Avenue. My grandmother's house, 7 families lived. Like she has 7 kids. My mother and my parents and siblings lived in that house. My aunt Niecy lived in that house. Booty lived in that house. Butchie lived in the basement. I mean, this is one house. I went back to that house. I did an interview with Oprah, and I couldn't believe how small this house was. That all of us lived in that house. So again, that evolution that you speak of, it's just real and it's happening in real time, and I'm talking about it. And we're not going to stop, and we're not going to stop talking about it. We're not going to trick us out of it and make us feel ashamed to be successful in a place that set up a system for us to be dead at 21.
Alright. So you hit me up when we brought this forward, you're like, Zway, I think we disagree on this. And I'm still trying to find the line of where you believe we disagree, because it there doesn't sound to be anything within that clip that goes against, I think, the fairness of how this the system that he discusses. So which points do you think that we disagree on?
So, I think Jay choosing to compare being called a capitalist to being called a nigga, right? And like the whole conversation about these names that they come up with to discourage us. I don't think that applies to the term capitalist when that term and even critiques of capitalism aren't rooted in in or predate, right? Like the struggle for black folks in America, right? So I don't think that when Hove says they're calling him a capitalist, I don't think it. I'm surprised because he's somebody that I hold in a very high regard, right? And when the way that he talks about being called a capitalist as a term they're using to tear him down, there are other critiques for capitalism that aren't related to him, right? And I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but I feel like it speaks to where Jay is and Jay's perspective, right? And I think it shows that Jay-Z is in a place where he believes that the ultimate win is succeeding in this system, is finding a way to succeed in this system despite the obstacles placed in front of you. And I think while Jay-Z has motivated me in a lot of ways and a lot of points in my life, there's a point where we can actually zoom out even more and say, maybe the game isn't a game that we should be playing. Maybe the best version of our life isn't to be successful at this game, right? Maybe it's to change the game. Maybe it's to decide we collectively don't agree with that, or the standards or the benchmarks or the situations that create that are why there were 7 people living in that household, right? Like, I believe that capitalism causes that. And so to look at finding a way to succeed in capitalism as the solution is something I disagree with. And it almost comes off as if Hove hasn't learned or read as much about that as I thought he might have.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that's because seeing capitalism or success in capitalism as the solution towards upbringing or towards uplifting the black community, you're saying the solution is not within capitalism. It's not within there. It's about finding alternatives. Is that what I'm getting correctly?
I mean, so my personal belief in what it will be most effective, I think, is an approach that is very critical of capitalism. I think it's totally fine, and I wouldn't really go too far in criticizing somebody who thinks that capitalism has a place in our creating the amount of power it would take to get us to a better position as a people. But I think when you dismiss people criticizing you as a capitalist as just trying to hold you back and not having valid criticisms about what capitalism is and does to people, then I think you're missing your position in society. And it surprises me to hear Jay speak about his position in society in a way that I don't think reflects a full understanding of, like that he's succeeded in a game that ain't for us, but that doesn't change that the game ain't for us. And it makes it very difficult to help all the people that look up to you. And I'm wondering where his concern for all those other people is in those statements.
You see, I guess I see the point of disagreement on that, right? Which is that if we say on this show all the time that when one person of color makes it, a lot of families eat. How many families eat off of a billionaire person of color, right? So if we're going back to like the verse that Jay just dropped on God Did, on Cal's album, which is dope, he says, how many billionaires have come from Jay? And so literally speaking directly to that, he says, I count 4. You know, that's Ye, Reed, him, and then LeBron as well. So it's like, that's 4 people. How many families are then fed from those 4 people that now own industries and whatever the case is, and are now ascending towards heights that we haven't been able to see within this system? And I think the reason it's important for us to participate in the system directly is because currently that's what's broken. You know, creating a whole new capitalistic order, that sounds great, but like if we're speaking about actual change, that's by seeing what's happening, where we're allowed to go into, where we're not allowed to go into, putting ourselves there, opening the door and having everybody come in and then, you know, benefit and profit from that too. So changing it from the inside as opposed to try and build a whole new building for it, because then I think I don't the market is the market. You know, the market is the market. Is kind of what I feel like, and it's always easier to change things from the within the markets than trying to create something else.
I feel what you're saying, but I think whether you're if you want to change the market, whether you're inside the market or outside the market, you have to be able to criticize it, right? And I think I'm not talking about creating a new form of capitalism, or maybe I am, right? But I'm thinking about there are models for that. They exist, right? Like there are models for socialism. There are models that have worked horribly, and there are things that we can learn from that. Just like there are models of capitalism that have worked horribly, but there are models for socialism that we haven't tried yet. There are models for socialism that have worked in small places where they've been allowed to be implemented. But I think when we accept that capitalism is the default and and without true exploration of the alternatives decide that we're too scared to investigate it, I think we're doing whatever version of society we can live in a disservice, or even the best version of capitalism we could create a disservice. And I think there's a confusion here that smacks of like just defending capitalism that in a way that I think is contradictory to what it's done to people, right? So
This
I like
is,
hold on let me get this one bit out, right? Because I want to go to something you said. You said how many billionaires has he been able to create, right? So if you count 3 or 4 billionaires that he's been able to create, that is incredible. And we do say that when one black person gets to eat, a lot of people get to eat. When one black person becomes successful, a lot of people get to eat. But how many more people get to eat if you're concerned with a different metric? What if instead of creating other billionaires, right, 4 other billionaires, you were concerned with creating 1 billion financially stable people?
my beef is that when he presents the solution in a contemporary manner, it's always met with, not always, but it's usually met with criticism. Jay did the cryptocurrency school, which in itself, part of the programs was to be able to teach financial literacy in it. And how was that received, right? And now this is not, um, this is out of touch. This does not fit. What is it that you're doing? When it's a lot of those things, a lot of efforts. I really do think a lot of efforts aren't publicized. We learn much later a lot of the work that Jay has done quietly, be it from buying Lil Wayne out of a contractual situation, bringing people back home from jail, that type of thing. I think when you're so spread out in the type of impact that you want to do, especially in a field that you dominate in and are good in, like the capitalist field, which he is, because he's hit a top that many don't go to, which requires a lot of skill as well. It's natural that I want everybody to be able to achieve this. It's not that you have to, oh, it's the only metric, but it's another metric that's added on to the full scope of impact. Quite frankly, it's a metric that I hold very dearly, and one that I would like to be able to alternate, right? My fight being that we should be allowed to be the fullest versions of ourselves in a capitalistic society and still be able to make and still be able to benefit from it. I really do think that helping people should be the most valuable work. So how do we make impact look fly and also be able to be extremely lucrative at the same time? That way more people can get helped, you know? So I'm not saying I'm Jay-Z or nothing, but I definitely understand.
So let me ask you. So you're saying that you hope to be a billionaire one day, right?
That's not what I said.
Well, you're saying that that title is one that you hold in high regard of that as far in terms of an achievement. Am I understanding you correctly?
I mean that's objective. That's objective just by pure statistics of how many people become it and how many people don't.
It's objective that that's a something good to aspire to.
It's objective that is something notable to aspire for,
Okay, yeah.
and special and very unique to achieve.
Would you want to be a billionaire?
I'm not focused on that. I'm not focused on that, but I would love to have the freedom of what that type of capital would give me in terms of how I'd be able to help people.
Do you think that capital does the most helping of people if you control the billion and decide where it goes, or if you control X amount of million and give the rest of it away to help people? If helping people is the ultimate goal.
I don't think giving away money is the best way to help people. No.
Well, I don't mean giving it. I don't mean just giving it away, but I mean like, do you think that you, as a billionaire, being the person who privately owns all of that wealth and then decide what gets done with different amounts of it for different products and ventures, maximizes how many people it can help? Or do you think that if you were to keep certain amount of million, right, say 10 million, 100 million for your life and to keep yourself financially stable, and then distributed the other 900 million to the other most knowledgeable people in the impact space across different sectors, housing, education, mental health, that those people would be able to maximize that money more so than you owning all of it?
It's like, I mean, it's always going to be subjective about what's the best way to be able to deploy capital. Fun fact, today is the 21st anniversary. Hey, that's trippy. I was just watching. I was just listening to the blueprint. And you know, when we speak about cash distribution too, man, you know, billionaires really do get an unfair expectation when it comes towards what they're supposed to be giving. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gives more away than any individual organization, right? Like they give more away. They've also started the Billionaire Pledge, the first of its kind, where now they have about 9 billionaires who've pledged that when I die, 80% of my wealth is going completely towards impact, right? They started that pledge, but still at the same time, you could say, how come they haven't given up 900 million of the 13 billion that he owes? And that's where it becomes a bit unfair in terms of what it takes to be able to sustain a machine of that sort. So in order to be able to be at a place where you can help and distribute as much money as possible, there's a large capital machine that has to be able to support the structure for that to be able to keep on happening. And a lot of the times that looks like stock options, that looks like equity, that looks like, you know, government debt, that looks like a whole myriad of things. So being able to say, okay, I can give this away is the same thing like saying, I could save more people by giving away the raft that I sailed in on to be able to help them.
I think that
But then I die. And then who's going to row us back because no one knows how to swim?
Well, I think, so our producer pulled up a quote from Fred Hampton earlier on capitalism and mentioned to us even beforehand in pre-pro, right? Like for Hove to be somebody who says, I arrived on the day that Fred Hampton got assassinated, to clarify it further, right? For Fred Hampton to be somebody who was so insistent that the movement isn't about me. The movement isn't about what I can do for the people. My purpose is to help others realize how that they have the power to create the life that they want to live, right? And so in some ways it is always about putting it's how, and depending on how close to that you want to live, if that's a symbol that you identify with, how much of yourself are you willing to give away if you think it can help other people, right? And there's something to be said for what is my role within the movement and how much do people need me, the young, charismatic leader, and how much do I need them to realize that person in themselves, right? And regardless of if I'm here or not, right? Like, what is our obligation to other people, right? Like, if we exist in a system that isn't we all didn't have a hand in creating, is our ultimate goal to succeed in that system? Or should we take seriously the maybe daunting task of creating a new system that does include everybody's voices? But if we decide that we will always be defensive and criticize whenever someone says, yeah, you won, but in a system that is hurting people, then I think we limit ourselves. To the point of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I think there are people that would say that what it took to amass that wealth, the people that were oppressed in mining for the resources that it took to make the microchips, and the people that worked hours and weren't paid, right? Like I think they might say, well, it doesn't matter how much of that they give back. They haven't repaired the harm they did to amass that wealth. And that's the case against a lot of billionaires, right? Is that in order to reach that point, you have to have exploited some workforce at some point. That's one thing that's dope about Hove, is that Hove's model of reaching a billionaire, although it does certainly involve those capitalistic ventures, right? The fact that it was built from somebody who wasn't born with wealth and made money off of hip hop, right? That's something that's fire. But I think in the majority of cases, you're looking at a system of exploitation that allows people to get to a place where they can start to give back. And in most cases, they're not giving back at any rate that starts to repair the harm they've done, or even starts to make a dent in what they like. If I have the most, of course I should give the most. But what percentage of what I have am I giving? That's how I would measure it.
Yeah, I'm generally very hesitant on casting a blanket of all billionaires are evil. I really hold off on that, especially because it's not the truth. And when we say things like we're operating a system, why not create something that's different? I say it's exactly what Jay did with Rock Nation. That's exactly what Jay's trying to do with Tidal. That's exactly what Jay's trying to do. Tidal is like, listen, this is what the system is. Let's create our own version. We're gonna pay people a better way. We're gonna put in writer credits on it. We're gonna give equity away to the artists as they're coming in, so each stream goes towards the artist. That is the attempt at that, right? And then we're gonna talk about alcohol, rappers. Y'all love booze. We'll keep advertising these people. They don't want us in the system. Let's do our own. Ace of Spades, here it is. Duce, here it is. It's our own, and we're drinking it. I created it. The equity splits are in this manner. Woo, woo, woo. And Jay's very forthcoming when it comes to the structures in which he put things up on. Now, our producer just showed me, I pulled up a Reddit thing where it said at Jay-Z's cannabis farm or company, people were paid just a hair above minimum wage. And, people, look, as a business owner right now, there are times where paying just above minimum wage is what the business can afford at that time. That's the reality of it. I don't think at all times it's just a matter of exploitation. Just because somebody has $1 billion doesn't mean that everyone that's within a firm of a company that is associated with him by equity has to now be the full recipient of the rest of that income. I don't think it works that way.
It doesn't work that way because capitalism, that's what capitalism is. Capitalism is saying that the person who owns the company gets to take the vast majority of the wealth that's created by that labor force. And an alternative system would say, well, let's take another look at how much each individual person puts into that labor force and how much they get out of it. And I think across a variety of different news stories, we've seen people at the top of that system taking in record profits while the people at the bottom of that system are struggling to survive. So maybe there's a way that we can reallocate to say, maybe these people are putting more in to the company, are more essential to it working than they're getting paid for. And maybe not from a, we can't replace this person perspective, but from a human, what does this person deserve as a human for their hours in the day? What is human time worth, right? Is it something that's close to minimum wage? I don't think so. Maybe we can think about a system where a black person owning a company that we can all go and buy is cool, but it's even cooler if that's collectively owned by all the people that work in the factory, right? Like we're not thinking big enough. I mess with Jay-Z heavy for all of the ways that within this system, he's tried to create opportunities for people. But I also think that we have to hold space for criticizing this system and taking a serious look at creating another system that includes all of those things that might be hard to imagine now, but that provide equity for people. And there are people that have been doing the work around that. Like Angela Davis has done some amazing work around socialism. Miriam Kaba has written some amazing work around mutual aid and how we can build collectives that support each other, right? There is research and there are mechanisms by which we can create those things. But I just think redistributing the wealth and the power, right? You have, last point I want to make on Hove. You have a private, unelected individual, right? And while he has done amazing things for black folks, that money and power has often made him a voice for black folks in positions where that has been to the detriment of black folks, i.e. Hove in the midst of the NFL having to grapple with their issues with race, Hove coming in and saying, nah, I'm doing a deal with the NFL as a billionaire. We passed kneeling. We done with that. You know what I mean? Like, that voice is too loud sometimes. And that was framed as an initiative that was supposed to help us and did nothing. Right? And so that's
They
a part
got
of the
Dr.
issue
Dre
too.
on the halftime show. Come
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
They got, but I mean, look, and maybe we can end on this note. And it's a good conversation. And I like how we got to the point. I understand your gripe with it, right? And I do get it. From a numbers, if you're just looking at numbers, right, and just how cash flow, where it flows in the whole supply chain of things. Not every billionaire is an evil billionaire, and I think that's very important for us to be able to assume, because when we blanket a term like that, eat the rich and all that type of stuff, what we're doing is we're classifying a whole spectrum of value creation under one blanket, and it robs us the ability to be subjective and to really, find the points where we can be able to fix things. I don't think that criticism is fair to someone like Jay-Z, who has gone above and beyond in terms of social impact things, creating a school, getting people from jail, creating different alternative service providing options, against the system, even at a detriment at times, trying to be a trailblazer, trying to push people in, creating more black billionaires under his tutelage than anybody else. I don't think that's the right person to bring that terminology to. Clearly, this man has a very poignant agenda on being able to bring black people to the pinnacle of financial success. A very important goal. Some other black folks are doing it too. He's not the only one. But in this character, from the culture of hip hop, he's the first. And so, in order for the decisions to finally consider us within them, somebody has to sit at eye level with the decision makers. And a lot of the times, what allows you the chair to meet them at high level is paid through by high capital, acquiring high capital. So that, and quite frankly, man, that's something that I hope to be able to bring forth is give us the chance to be able to say, whenever we get into any room or any chair, to be like, nah, we've been here. We've been here before. We know what these stakes look like. We know what to look for. We know what to ask. We know what to avoid. We know that we belong in our fullest version of ourselves. So that's don't eat me when I come up with the B.
Hey, bro. First of all, I hope I never said Jay-Z was evil, because I don't believe that. But
you heard it here first, guys. Miles Xavier says Jay-Z still Illuminati.
Yes, the all the way out of context show. I don't think Hov is evil. I agree that maybe evil isn't even, I don't think, useful terminology for this conversation. But I think, me personally, I see capitalists as the triumphant winners of a game that maybe we shouldn't all be playing, right? And I agree with you that somebody, in order to make change, somebody has to sit eye to eye with the decision makers. But I hope that if you've climbed that mountain, right, that the people in those positions hold so much power. And I think it would be dope to be able to climb that mountain and to say, I was able to claw my way up with these grappling tools right here. And this is how we all feel like we clawed our way up here, don't we? But maybe let's build stairs so that not only the most incredibly gifted grappling climbing specialists can reach a place that is powerful and beautiful and safe.
We can go on that. We can go on that because I say, bro, even if everyone starts at the same place, we all wouldn't end up at the same place, especially in that game. It is reserved for the best. It is. The pinnacle is reserved for the best and the hungry. That we can all start at the same place, but the pinnacle is reserved for the few and far between. And
does it have to be?
The way that this, yes, it does.
In capitalism, it has to be.
No, incentive of an incentive of competition drives efficiency in products. You know, so if there was no incentive to compete, then the quality of the products wouldn't make sense. But there's a lot to unpack, and we are getting the red light to keep beaming. Shout out to you for knowing that the whole conversation would be the one that would be the one that brings us to such a lengthy conversation. I feel like we could speak about this
No doubt.
for 96 years.
No doubt. To affinity, right? Yeah. Yo, go listen to Reasonable Doubt, man. But also read some Miriam Kaba too.
I got 96 problems and the queen ain't one. Hit me.
Oh, fam. Yo, seamless. Yo, before we get into this segment, I just want to say, yo, rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace to Pop Smoke. Rest in peace to Young Dolph. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to King Von. Rest in peace to Bernie Mac. Did I say Kobe? We good.
You did not say Kobe. I'm glad you said that. Rest in peace to Kobe. Rest in peace my grandmama. Rest in peace your old grandmama.
True.
You know. Hassan, the producer side, rest in peace any fallen soldiers. Rest in peace my cousin Terjo, man. We still miss you. We still think about you. Who a lot of people are saying don't rest in peace, however, is the queen. Look, you know, when we get this conversation, I said, I'll admit, I'll be vulnerable. I said, guys, I think it's distasteful to talk about the queen. I looked onto our producer's Instagram story, and he had on, we smoking Royal Pack tonight, is what he said, Dale.
Gotta love the diversity of perspective. Where else?
We smoking Royal Pack tonight is how my producer put it. But, you know, the sentiments that he shared are sentiments that have been widespread. There's been a lot of mixed receipt of how this news has come about. Miles Xavier, I was in the UK not so long ago, and I celebrated what the British call Jubilee Day. Okay, Jubilee Day is where we're all happy because it's the Queen. Bro,
wait. We're all happy because it's the Queen. What does that mean?
It means they celebrating the Queen, bro. That's what Jubilee Day is all about, bro. And they don't take these. They do not take these celebrations down until next Jubilee. Is what I understand. Is that they put up celebrations once a year, and those banners stay there year round. They love the Queen. The Brits love the Queen. So the Brits are heartbroken about it. They're mourning. 2 minutes of silence before meetings. They're going through it. The same isn't shared internationally, however.
Mm-hmm. And no cap, there's definitely Brits who aren't feeling the love either. It's mixed, and I think coming from Chicago, not disrespecting the dead takes on a certain weight, right? Like there are consequences for that in this space. So I think having seen that, having come up in that, and just the way I was raised, I 1000% think it's important not to be disrespectful of the dead, right? But what does it say about your life if when you die, we can't talk about you? Because to mention a lot of what you was into could be termed as disrespect, right? We don't really want to get into all that.
No, we should. Let's get into it.
We should.
Let's get into it, because the crux of it is what is not being spoken about. The crux of why people are torn by the death of the Queen is in what has not been spoken about, right? There's a bit of a careless treatment of history when it comes to the monarch, what the manner in which they were able to acquire wealth, the wealth that they have now, what the monarch actually means, who's contributing to it. Granted, this is somebody's granny, okay, and you speaking to somebody that loves his granny, okay? You speaking to somebody that loves his granny, so you want to be respectful in that way, because there are good people that are mourning, and only know this woman as something positive, and as a grandmother or a mother, or they only know the positive sides of this person's story. And a person's story has many positive, we live a life of different seasons. So she could have a very healthy, positive season, but we cannot disregard previous seasons, the seasons specifically that brought them to the wealth that they have. My dog agrees.
Speak on it.
Speak on it,
He
dog.
said that's right.
Can I get a hoo from anybody that agrees?
Man, thank you for being willing to take us there and to have this conversation. She was human, right? And I think that speaks to a lot of what you were saying, right? People have different seasons in life, they grow, but I don't know how much growing she did, man. It's really interesting when you have somebody who is a human and you want to respect as a human, but was also a part, and at a big part, right? The most visible part in a lot of ways of a brutal empire with a brutal legacy, right? And so while people celebrate her life, I think part of me resonates and identifies with people that look at that and go, y'all are celebrating our oppressor. Y'all are celebrating someone who has done great harm to us that hasn't been healed, right? Across the world, right? People in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, right? So, and I don't know if there's any evidence that she's grown. I mean, you can look to her track record, and she's the queen of this place that represents so many different people and has done so much up until into very recent times that to make those people's life harder, right? Like she fought for people not to get their independence from colonial rule, right? And that's something she did in her life. So how do we make our peace with that?
When we get specific about the damage that has been done, right? In India alone, it is estimated that about $6 trillion was taken from India. The biggest crown jewels and diamonds that the Queen has are stolen from the culinary mines of Africa, of South Africa, are stolen from the mines of Bloemfontein, are stolen from the mines of India. So the most amount of wealth that the monarchy stands on comes from the exploitation of people. It does. There's no question about that. Specifically South Africa and India, because in South Africa there was the diamond mines and the gold rush. They formed these companies that pretty much had free labor and took trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, trillions with the T, and did the same thing in many parts of the world. If you look into the death and destruction that was at the hand of the Queen, can we see that first question again? So what does it mean for the price of VVS specifically? I mean, we'd have to get Johnny Dang to let us know about that, but there was a point in time where blood diamonds was something that we had spoken about, and hip-hop wanted to move away from blood diamonds. Is they Jacob? Don't lie to me, man. Like, we were knowledgeable that at some part of the process, somebody had to suffer from it, and then we adjusted. But when it comes to the Commonwealth, and when it comes to the Queen, and this is very interesting because, I'm a recipient of a Commonwealth scholarship, or was a recipient of a Commonwealth scholarship, but still, the wealth was built on the exploitation of brown people, of black and brown people. Biafra War is the same thing if you look into Nigeria, where between 1 to 3 million people lost their lives. 1 to 3 million people lost their lives in the Biafra War. That was largely in part caused by Britain's presence within the country and people wanting to split away from the state. We saw the same thing in how they broke up India over the course of a coffee break. India was carved up over the period of a lunch break. Billions of people were separated on a napkin over the course of a lunch break. There are still so many deeper, there's so many deeper things that exist in the history of the monarchy. And because people are not taught the proximity of that history, it seems like something long ago that happened and was inconsequential, but that's not true. This stuff happened recently. And so the death of this woman brings that up.
Word. I mean, it forces people to either blindly say, we loved you and rest in peace, or to really examine who you were as a person, right? That's what happens when people pass. We think about their life, right? So when you think about the life of someone like Queen Elizabeth, she was a symbol, and she was a symbol for a lot of, willingly a symbol for a lot of horrible things, right? Like, she adorned herself with jewels that were literally stolen from, what's the Cullinan diamond? Come on, B.
The Cullinan diamond. Yo, can I ask our producer to pull up the Cullinan diamond, please? Look at this rock.
She wears the jewels that are literally stolen from other places, right? Her face is on the money that is printed due to colonization, right? Like, and then it's those things that are symbolic. It's her being the representation of this colonial power that was responsible for all the things you just outlined. Look at that. I mean, that is fly. She got good taste, but come on now, that ain't right.
Yeah,
that ain't right.
If you look at her crown jewel on her, the crown jewel, it's a Cullinan diamond from Africa. Yeah, you're right, Miles.
So look, bro, like, when you're the symbol of the country that's doing all these things, that's robbing and pillaging, right? And then in your own business, right? Like, we could give an example. In the 1960s, she was holding meetings to try and make sure that the clerical staff for the royal family could continue to discriminate against ethnic minorities, right? So she was saying basically that no colored immigrants or foreigners could serve as in clerical roles, right? And in the 1970s, as the British government is instituting laws to ban discrimination, her office is fighting to be exempt from those laws, right? So that she don't got to deal with no black and brown folks in her face.
Listen, go ahead, please.
I was just saying it speaks to erasure. It speaks to the fact that Britain, in a lot of ways, has never wanted to deal with its history of robbing folks. You know what I'm saying? It's like a parolee that don't ever want to admit where he went for those years, when they was in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know where you was. We know where you was at. We know what you did. And
wasn't university or vacation either, bro.
Yeah, university. Yeah, that's the one, right? And yo, it's been crazy to me to find out that America is this crazily racialized space, right? Like, racism is seeped into the fabric of this country, and the same can be said for Britain. But we have a system of at least remembering that history. They are attacking it, right? They definitely want to remove that information from schools, and we've covered that on this show. But there is Black History Month, problematic as that is. There are Black Studies departments in universities, right? As incomplete as those curriculums may be. That doesn't exist in the same way in the UK. there's not the same opportunity to explore that history, and that's on purpose. And I think when someone like the Queen passes, it's important for us to look at this as an opportunity to say, we are not going to allow the continued erasure of this history. But in fact, we will grapple with our humanity and saying, yes, it's very difficult. We want to honor somebody because they were a human, period. But we also have to tell the truth about who they were. And sometimes that's ugly. And that ain't nobody's fault but whoever lived that life.
Yo, if they can do a documentary on Michael Jackson after he got killed and bring up 2 other allegations and have Oprah interview those people, then by golly, y'all can do the same thing on this, okay? Cancel. Let me.
Do you bring up Mike because they dress the same?
This is the white glove. White glove. But like, not hey, like hey man, but hey, like white glove.
Wave hand.
Like wave hand. But you know, Maz, Yemen is one of those countries too, that suffered at the hand of Britain's colonial rule. And you're right, that is a big issue that Brits don't want to be able to admit, is that they don't want to take accountability of their history. And I had many conversations with British people like, yo, what do they teach you in school about what happened between the 30s and between the 20s and the 60s? So what was Britain, what is taught to you was happening during that time, you know? And a lot of them say we don't learn that. We don't learn that. We learn about history within. I'm saying that's crazy because, you know, at that time, the British Empire was making as much as $14 million a day. $14 million a day participating in the triangular trade. It really does force us to be able to take into account history. And I don't think, because of the history, I don't think celebrating the death of anybody is a great thing. However, if the death of somebody does invoke anger from people that feel as though they were impacted by the choices of the person that has passed, then it is well within their right to be able to grieve however they grieve, because they're grieving a whole different type of thing too. You know, there's a whole different grief that comes within that. It's like the mother who weeps at the funeral, the mother who weeps at the courtroom of her killer's sentencing. You know what I mean? I'm not weeping for you, but I'm triggered about what has happened, and so you're part of that situation. Yo, Brits, go check your history, bro. Some crazy things were happening during that time. Y'all wouldn't believe it. go see what happened. It's kind of nuts.
Man, it is nuts, man. It is nuts. And so, yeah, thank you for being willing to grapple with this with me. What can't get lost in all of this is that there's an ongoing energy crisis in the UK, right? While we're reporting on, you know, the Queen's death, and there's 24-hour news cycles showing the highlight reels of her life. There's also people like dying, people not going to be able to pay their energy bills. I read that in the UK, one person dies every 50 minutes from an illness related to living in cold housing, right? So with the energy bills that folks are facing this winter, I think it's important to know that, like, tradition is something that we all take part in, and it brings us together. And we should examine how we allow it to bring us together and what we are celebrating. But let's keep in mind the folks that are still with us, that we still might be able to help and reach out to. And finally, I'm flawed as hell. I got a lot of flaws. I'm a messed up person, man. You know what? And I hope that all the people that know me well and that know the things that are fucked up about me can, like, I hope that when I pass, those are the things that people lift up, and that my humanity can be preserved, and that the folks that grieve me can be allowed to do that. So in that same way, I ain't dissing nobody that's grieving the Queen. Let's just think about who we put our emotional energy into.
While we're thinking about the Queen, there's many other queens that we can think about, such as the Queen of Dragons.
Oh, we back. What year is it?
we back. Yo, listen, hip hop.
Lightning round. or should I say fire round, yo, dragon round, yo. Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon, hot D
House
for
of
sure.
Dragons. It is not hot deep. We're not calling. We're not shortening that for the hot D section. Don't tune into Live House
All the
for
way live hot D, yo.
a whole
Yo.
different type of show. Whole different type of show. We
Check
saving
this
that for Patreon.
So wait, man, but sometimes we laugh to hide our pain, man, because this one, low key, we was hurt,
Still not over it.
we was wounded.
Still not over it. I'm still not over how they.
I feel like a jaded ex, yo. You gonna have to do a lot to win me back. We're in a trial period
But I'll
right
take
now.
I'll take you up on those lunches. I'll take these.
it.
This is the lunches from an ex that has done us wrong,
That's right.
and
I'm
take us
get-
to our favorite restaurant.
I'm ordering appetizers and dessert.
It's at dessert. So which means I want to see dragons fighting. I want to see people fighting. I want to see people fighting dragons. I want to see maybe dragons turning into people. I don't know what I want, but I have a lot of expectations.
Long story short, man, the end of Game of Thrones, probably one of the biggest television events ever, was horrible. It was terrible. The last 2 seasons were really, 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 really bad. Okay, and a big letdown for a lot of us. And so, I was skeptical on whether I would even check out Game of Thrones when they came back with this prequel series, House of the Dragon, all about one of the families, the Targaryens. But man, there's something about that Sunday night. You know it's dropping.
They got us.
They got
They
us.
got us. They got us. They led with dragons. That's why they got us. They led with the dragons.
It ain't bad, man. It ain't bad. It's not Game of Thrones. It feels much smaller. It feels much more compact. But it does have the production value of the show is there. The acting is there. They've done a great job casting it. Whether it can live up to the same level of intrigue and tension, we'll see. But they off to a pretty decent start. It's moving quick though.
They're definitely moving and shake with it. They definitely move and shake with it quite quickly. I like what you said. It is a more compact. It is a more compact story. What is difficult to get over is anytime they mention the great darkness that's coming, I'm like, yeah, dude, listen, it's only dark because we can't see the fight and how they shot it. Okay, they should be worried about the dark lighting that is coming into Westeros. So I'll be interested to see how they play off that, because obviously the whole big thing about Game of Thrones is that there's all these houses that are fighting against each other, yet there's a cold front, which is a White Walkers that is coming and will annihilate absolutely everything. And everything about these books, you have read the books, I have read the books, everything about these books from the jump is that the night is coming. That's the first scene of the book. The night is coming. Mm-hmm. The whole way through, the night is coming. And what happened when the night actually got there?
It came prematurely. If that ain't accurate, that's how it went down. That's how it went down. All right. The most epic. They promised. They talked a lot. They talked a lot going into it, but when it finally came down to it, they wasn't able to deliver. Man, I was left unsatisfied. Right. Rolled over, smoked a cigarette, went outside, thought about my life.
Went on your phone. You went on your phone.
Just
Go
scrolling.
finish yourself up.
Texting my girls like, girl, that wasn't it.
You know, matter of fact, we're going to turn this into a House of Dragons conversation, but I feel very comfortable turning this into a how they did us wrong section of the last Game of Thrones. You know what I hate most? Is that they big this whole thing up. Not only is the fight too dark and we can't see it, not only is the fact that this grand fight happened over one episode. Bro, the Battle of the Bastards took 2 days at the very least. The Battle of the Bastards was 2 episodes. This right here, this is a singular episode. The heroes don't fight each other.
Nah.
That would be like if they ran Avengers and Iron Man never fought Thanos.
Word. Yeah, man, they missed a lot of opportunities. They definitely dropped the ball. Daenerys turned quicker. We should have seen Daenerys go through Jon's phone. That would have explained her turning evil quicker. Like they didn't set the foundation. It was just bad writing, bro. And shout out to Chilla in the comments, man. Chilla was saying that like the reason is because the show started to tank when they ran out of source material from the books, and he's absolutely right. Right, the show writers were very good at adapting that material, and when there was no more material to adapt, they showed that they were trash at coming up with their own material. And so again, Chills was saying that it's probably going to be a little bit better House of the Dragon because all of what they're basing the book on is written, and I think it's that and the fact that they know they can't mess up again. They can't be responsible for the two most disappointing endings in the world. I think they're gonna carry this one through. I think I think that might mean playing it a little bit safe, but you ain't got to do too much with Game of Thrones. Give me some dragons, give me some political stuff, give me some unexpected things that make sense, and we good.
Dude, I'm still so mad. I'm still really mad, and I'm mad because this was the biggest TV moment, maybe the last TV moment where everyone was just gathering around to see the finale. Mind you, in that same as season 8, first episode was all talking. First episode, they gave us all just pure words, right? Pure words. We didn't see nothing happen. For maybe 3 characters, we're like, oh, okay, yo, no, they're heating it up. They're heating it up. Y'all will see when they. Well, it's all shite. The next episode. Next episode comes preheating it up. Preheating it up. Yo, we might have to fight the White Walkers. Third episode, it's about to go down. Fourth episode, dark. Fifth episode, talking. Bro, like, do you understand? Do you understand what they've taken from us? We'll never get that back.
Yeah, I feel you. That there's hours invested in watching 6 seasons, 7 seasons of a show building up with no payoff. Yeah, that's hard to forgive. I feel you, man. I think we need to think about the way that we put expectations on this type of shows, man, because like, bro, I'm happy when the more I think everything is gonna be trash, the happier I am with everything. The more I go into this stuff thinking there's no way they're gonna pull this off, the more I'm gonna be happily surprised. And I'm thinking about that last Jordan Peele movie, Nope. Right? I sat in that theater. I sat in that theater for the first 15 minutes trying to figure out how he was gonna deliver a message in a scary, terrifying package. I'm looking for all the metaphors, and then I realized, man, just let me kick back and just watch this, bro. And if I just kick back and watch it, it's pretty decent. And I'll be surprised if it's something as incredible as the old Game of Thrones was. I don't think this is going to hit those levels, but I think this is going to be a cool dragon show to watch on Sundays. We got the new Lord of the Rings show coming out. I think this is going to be a nice little vibe, man. I think this is going to be a nice little vibe. Me, personally, I'm Team Daemon. I want that man to win.
Listen, man, let's do something that we said we wanted to do but haven't tried. As we're about to give in the scores, man, let us know any album or review that we should cover, speak on very quickly. We listen to a lot of music. We can drop a comment or whatever the case is. We're taking recommendations throughout the whole week. That's why we call it recommended and review. Miles, what are you listening to lately?
Running that Ari Lennox, Age, Sex, Location, I believe is what it's called.
ASL.
That's fire. Bouncing back to that new JID every once in a while. Still rinsing that Joey Badass. What else, man? What else? That's tops. What you got on deck?
Yo, there's a DSM. We should actually give it a listen. DSM, an album by Van Buren Records. Fuego. Super fuego. Running a lot of Green Tea Peng. If you've heard of Green Tea Peng, an album called 108. Very good. Very good. It's some alternative It's alternative UK music that infuses jazz, a bit of pop rock, a bit of R&B into it, and it just comes out so masterful. Listening to some of that Ari Lennox and also Makami, and a whole lot of Baldy James.
Boldy James is that guy. Boldy James is that guy.
Have
Shout
you
out
listened to
Chills.
Black Thought?
Nah, I haven't. Shout out. I was about to say I'm about to dive into that for sure. Another thing I've been rinsing too is that Bino Rideau. That Sorry for the Way too. I likes that. I likes that a lot.
Yeah.
That's fire. Man, listen.
Yes, sir.
Hip hop for days, music for days, conversation for days, carefully curated content for their cranium. Wise way.
Cause we love y'all, and we know.
Oh yeah, we know. It is a kind of rainy but still lovely Sunday afternoon here in Chicago. You know, we know it's Sunday wherever y'all are at in the world, creeping up on Monday, and still y'all are taking the time to sit here and chill with us. So anybody that is hearing these radio waves are reaching right now, we appreciate you. You know, this is a celebration of celebrating. It's a celebration of love. It's a celebration of how good it feels to be black. Don't it feel good, Sway?
We getting a word from our producer that we didn't give a score.
We can't score that thing. We only 3 episodes in. We got to score that thing at the end, I think. So to be continued. Maybe we can do this thing in a couple of little parts, and yeah, man, just talk about having dragons back in our lives. So a celebration of celebrating, a celebration of life, a celebration of dragons, and a celebration of how good it feels to have something to watch on Sunday nights. Don't it feel good, Sway?
Oh man, I'm about to watch something right now.
Yes, sir. I'm actually about to play that new 2K. Dive into that. That's waiting on you.
You got it like that?
When you
got
get
it
to
like
the
that?
side. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me get my skills up, and then you can enter the dojo. But man, wherever y'all at, man, we hope that you've enjoyed the show. We hope that you eat something delicious, that you hug somebody you love, that you spin some records that make you feel good. Peace, water, we go.
Yeah, I get that, but is we live though?